Hey guys, so for this presentation, I wanted to focus on some of the differences in practice in nature that come with Alaskan beekeeping versus beekeeping we experience in the majority of the US, especially here. I wanted to focus on the process of overwintering because this is probably the most different thing from what we would have to do. This also applies to a lot of northern areas, not just Alaska, but places in Canada and some of the northern lower 48 states. So here's a quick timeline of events. The main thing to note about this, I think, is that you can see that the time that the bees are foraging within their colony is much shorter than what we would experience here. Really, the flowers don't come out until the middle of May or even the end of May sometimes, and by August there isn't much pollen and nectar being collected at all, so a lot of times this is when the season will end. So some of the benefits of beekeeping in Alaska that not a lot of people living here would understand because they experience a lot different seasons. Um, there's an exceptional biodiversity and variety of flowering plants, and in addition to this, usually they come in large expanses of undisturbed and undeveloped land, and so there's ginormous flower fields, and a lot of times the flowers are clustered within this field, or they'll grow um, by species, and so this is obviously very beneficial for the bees if they are foraging with one species at a time. Also, in the summer, the days can reach up to 18 hours of sunlight, and the bees will forage for the entire time until it gets dark. They don't really understand or have like a set amount of hours that they're going to forage. They will forage as long as the sun is out. Also, there tends to be less disease than in the lower 48. Some of this goes back to the fact that bees just don't live as long up north because of the cold and because of the seasons. So there isn't really time for disease to spread within the colonies or between colonies. Also, something that I learned while I was researching for this is there is an extremely helpful and enthusiastic network of beekeepers in this area who are really open and willing to share all of their information and knowledge. Also, there's a higher demand for local honey, and you can always sell it at a higher cost because there's a lack of it. You'll always have a customer base because people just really want to get a local product. Some of the disadvantages to beekeeping in Alaska obviously come with the weather and with the seasons. There's a really long winter season that will go from sometimes the end of August or September. It starts to get cold for the bees, and it'll last up until March. There can even be snow then. And there's a relatively short summer season, like we discussed in the timeline. Also, there's usually extreme cold in the northern parts of the state, and then lots of rain and precipitation in the southern parts. So this can cause the problem of either the bees freezing out or a lot of humidity and issues with the water in bees. Also, packages are really, really expensive in this area, and equipment, because it has to be shipped up from the lower 48. I think the package rate for like a 4-pound package of bees, which is usually what they're sold by up there, is like $230 now. Also, there's obviously a lot of extra work and money that it takes to overwinter the bees, and overall, there's just a higher rate of colony death because of all of these things combined, really. So now we're into the options of overwintering or not overwintering, because once August comes around, people have already decided usually what they're going to do with their hives. And the first of these options, and what was more popular for a really long time, was killing off your hive or euthanizing your hive when the weather is no longer fit for them to be out foraging. This eliminates a lot of the costs and hard work that goes into overwintering all for like months on end. Also, the beekeepers can start to save money. They can harvest all of the honey because they don't have to leave any for the bees, and they can also start planning early for next year. This is one of the reasons that disease rates are lower. So some of the options that you have if you want to euthanize your bees, or you have to euthanize your bees, is you can shake the frames out into the snow, which will freeze them out. You can put dry ice in the top of the hive, and as it melts, it releases carbon dioxide, which replaces the oxygen in the hive. Or you can also spray or shake your frames out into dish soap and water, which kills them pretty quickly. This is obviously becoming a lot less popular recently because package costs are so high. And many beekeepers will also, rather than do this, give away or sell their bees to people in warmer areas who could use the bees even in the winter months. The other option is overwintering, which is becoming more and more popular. And really, beekeepers have to start very early in order to execute this well. Because of the weather, there can be either extreme cold or lots of precipitation for like 6 months, 7 months. And so the first step for this is the hives need to be moved to a protected area like a shed or against a building for a windbreak, and preferably somewhere with a roof that hangs over the hives to protect it from precipitation. Also, extra insulation should be added around the body of the hive. You can see that some people are choosing to wrap hay bales around the outside of the hive in order to protect it. Also, more and more people are starting to keep their hives in sheds or in barns that are really a lot more temperature controlled. Also, the bees need to be fed a lot of supplemental honey or supplemental food just because they're consuming so much and putting off so much energy to keep the hive warm for a really extended period of time. Also, diseases like nosema can occur at higher rates here because the bees don't often get like a cleansing flight, so they're really cooped up for long periods of time within the hive. But overall, this is a really good option because if it's successful, the bees are ready to go and you don't have to spend that extra $200 on a package. So more and more people, even if they haven't always been doing this, are just really trying to give it a shot now. So this is all that I really wanted to talk about specifically with this topic for now. So thank you guys.